My name's Elena Moore, and I'll never forget the day I was humiliated beyond belief. 30 seconds I was at my desk, and the next I was dripping in soda, shoved toward the front doors of Pinnacle Darketing Solutions, right in the heart of downtown Seattle. I tried to stay calm, whispering a quiet please, but my voice was buried under a wave of mocking laughter from my coworkers. That is, until my husband, Julian West, billionaire, and not someone you want to cross, stepped through the glass doors and flipped their world upside down. The whole office, all sleek lines and cold glass, erupted into chaos that Friday afternoon. Tessa Vaughn, nasty as they come and proud of it, launched a Coke can at me like it was a game. It burst open, soaking my gray cardigan and splashing across my desk. Oops. Guess someone needed a rinse, she sneered. Trailer trash, she spat, loud enough for everyone to hear. Then Derek Sloan, all swagger and bad cologne, kicked my chair so hard I nearly fell over. Maya Tran, always chasing likes and drama, was right there with her phone out, filming like it was a reality show. This is gold. Say goodbye to your dignity, loser, she yelled, laughing like it was the funniest thing she'd ever seen. I stumbled, heart racing, my face burning red, but I didn't cry. Something flickered in me, just for a second. A kind of quiet fire. A secret they had no idea was coming. Who did they think I was? Some nobody? They never bothered to find out. To them, I didn't belong in that high-pressure darketing firm where appearances meant everything and wearing budget clothes was basically a crime. It hadn't started like this, not all at once. These things never do. It began with little jabs. Tessa, sharp-tongued and dripping in Gucci, leaned over my desk during that morning's meeting and smirked. Cute sweater, Ratch. What, your grandma finally cleaned out her closet? A few people chuckled. My face flushed, but I didn't say a word. I just smiled politely and kept my eyes on my notes. What was the point of explaining? That the cardigan was warm, comfortable, and honestly one of my favorites? That I didn't care about labels or trying to impress anyone? I was there to work, to do what I did best. Data analysis and then get home. That's all. But Tessa wasn't done with me. By lunch, she'd already rounded up her little posse. Derek Sloan, the overconfident sales guy with hair that looked like it belonged in a car commercial, and Maya Tran, the junior designer who lived for attention and Instagram likes. They crowded near my desk, pretending to talk business, but I could feel their eyes on me, and the insults weren't far behind. Hey, Elena. Derek called out loud enough for the entire floor to hear. Did you ride the bus again today? Pretty sure I saw someone just like you begging for change outside. Maya let out a giggle, snapped a photo of my beat-up tote bag, and mumbled under her breath, #thrift-store. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could feel the flush rising up my neck, but I bit down on my lip and said nothing. I wasn't there to get into it with them. I actually liked my job. Numbers were my comfort zone, finding patterns, making order out of chaos. That's what made me take this position in the first place, even though I knew from day one I wasn't a natural fit for the cold, high-fashion hustle of Pinnacle. I didn't need to be liked. Or so I kept telling myself. I just needed to make it through each day. The truth? The bullying had started almost immediately. I joined the company 8 weeks out of college, and it wasn't long before the whispers and smirks followed me everywhere. At first, it was just eye rolls when I unpacked my homemade lunches or quiet digs about my budget-friendly wardrobe. But lately, it had gone up a notch. Just last week, Tessa had accidentally spilled her coffee all over my desk, soaking hours of work I hadn't backed up yet. Derek thought it was hilarious. Oops, looks like you're starting from scratch, Cinderella. That night, Maya tweeted something cryptic. Some people really don't know their place and tagged it #office-life. I knew it was about me. And judging by the number of likes from our coworkers, I wasn't the only one who knew. Today was on another level. The three of them had been scheming for days, whispering behind coffee cups and trading glances like they were plotting a prank. By mid-afternoon, they made their move. Tessa strutted over like she owned the place and slammed a pile of folders down on my desk. Here's a little something to keep you busy, she cooed, syrupy and fake. Big presentation tomorrow and clearly you've got nothing better to do. I flipped through the papers, random stuff, mostly outdated spreadsheets and irrelevant printouts. Nothing that needed urgent attention. It was obvious, this wasn't about work. It was about control. I've got deadlines of my own, I said, calmly nudging the folders aside. My voice didn't shake, but my stomach twisted into knots. I hated confrontation. I hated how they always managed to spin my words into something ugly. Tessa's smile turned sharp. Don't act like you're above it. We all know you're just here to warm a chair. Seriously, what's your story? No friends, no taste, no spine. Did you even go to college, or did they just hire you out of pity? Derek chimed in, lounging on a cubicle wall like it was open mic night. Yeah, for real, Elena. You're like the office charity case. I bet you live in some sketchy basement with 5 roommates and a leaky ceiling. Laughter rippled across the room. Heads started turning. People were watching now. My hands shook slightly, but I laced them together in my lap, hidden beneath the desk. I wasn't about to break down in front of them. Then Maya whipped out her phone again and aimed it at me. Say hi to my followers, she snorted, already hitting record. Come on, Elena, Maya taunted, camera in hand. People are dying to know what it's like working with someone who shops at the dollar store. She zoomed in on my worn-out flats and laughed like it was the funniest thing she'd ever seen. I didn't have to look at her phone to know she was posting it, probably with some snarky caption meant to go viral among the office gossips. The walls felt like they were closing in. The air thick? My heart was thudding in my chest, but I didn't let it show. I kept my eyes locked on the screen in front of me. I stayed still. Calm. Controlled. I've always been told I'm beautiful, high cheekbones, warm hazel eyes, thick dark hair that I usually tie back in a simple ponytail. But I never dressed to show it off. I wasn't there to turn heads. I wasn't trying to outshine anyone. My looks were mine, not theirs to pick apart. Then came the final punch. Colin Reddick, our team lead, wandered by with that smug, patronizing look he always wore when he thought he had power. He'd never liked me. I was quiet, precise, and didn't play the game, which in his mind made me dangerous. Hey Moore, he barked. If you're not going to pull your weight, why don't you just clock out early? We don't need any deadweight dragging the rest of us down. He tossed a crumpled sticky note onto my desk. In sharp, messy scrawl it read, "Clean up your act." Laughter exploded around me. Tessa actually clapped like she'd just witnessed peak comedy. I stood up slowly, careful not to let my hands shake. "I'll finish my work," I said, my voice quiet but steady. "I always do." Then I picked up my bag and walked toward the break room. I needed a moment. Just 1 second to breathe. Behind me, I heard Derek's voice, loud and cruel. "Yeah, go cry somewhere else, princess." The words landed hard, but I kept walking. I wasn't going to let them see me break. Inside the break room, I leaned against the counter and gripped my phone like a lifeline. My hands trembled as I pulled up Julian's name in my contacts. I didn't want to bother him. He had a million things on his plate. West Enterprises wasn't just a company, it was a behemoth, spanning everything from tech to commercial real estate. Julian West was known all across Seattle. The billionaire chairman of the board. The man whose signature could shift entire derricks. But to me, he was Nate. Just Nate. My husband of 4 years. The man who proposed to me in a quiet little park with a ring he'd designed himself. The guy I met in college when he was a nobody with ambition in his eyes and I was the awkward math major tutoring him in statistics. We'd kept our wedding small, just family and a few close friends. I never told anyone at work who I was married to. Not because I was hiding it, but because I didn't want a free pass. I wanted people to respect me for my work, not for who I married. Even now, I still went by my maiden name at the office. Julian always said I was too stubborn for my own good, but he respected it. But in that moment, I needed him. Not for revenge. Not to step in and fight my battles. I just needed the strength he always gave me. I stared at the screen. My thumb hovered over the call button. He answered on the first ring. "R.A.?" His voice was deep, steady, warm like a blanket in a storm. "You okay?" I swallowed hard. "Not really," I said, my throat tight. "It's been bad today. They're awful, Nate. I don't know how much more I can." "I'm coming." "Where are you?" Nate asked, his voice suddenly sharper, protective. "At the office." "Pinnacle," I murmured. "I'm 12 minutes away. Don't move." And just like that, he hung up. No time for me to argue or tell him not to bother. I took a breath and walked back to my desk, bracing for the next round of mockery. Sure enough, Tessa was there waiting, arms folded, smirking like she'd already won. "Back already?" "I figured you quit by now," she said, voice dripping with fake innocence. Derek and Maya hovered nearby, clearly enjoying the show. Colin, from inside his glass-walled office, watched everything unfold like it was premium entertainment. I sat down without a word, eyes fixed on my monitor, pretending I didn't notice the eyes on me. But the air had changed thick with anticipation. Something was coming. I could feel it. Exactly 11 minutes later, the elevator dinged. Everything stopped. The chatter, the clacking keyboards, the snide comments, all of it froze as Julian stepped into the office. All 6'2" of him, dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, his presence impossible to ignore. His hair slicked back, his jaw tight, his whole energy radiating cold fury. Heads turned. Whispers started. Tessa's mouth fell open. Her eyes bounced between me and him, trying to make the connection. Derek went stiff mid-sentence, blinking like he was seeing a ghost. Maya dropped her phone. It hit the floor with a clatter. Julian didn't even glance at them. He walked straight to my desk, moving like he owned the building, which technically he kind of did. "Elena," he said, his voice low but clear. "You ready to leave?" I looked up at him. That familiar wave of calm washed over me. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Just need a minute." I started packing up my things, keeping my movements smooth, unhurried, even as the whole office practically vibrated with tension. Tessa was the first to pull herself together. She pasted on a sugary smile and stepped forward like nothing had happened. "Mr. West, hi. I'm Tessa Vaughn, account manager. We didn't expect you today, can I get you anything?" She fluttered her lashes, totally clueless to the storm she was standing in front of. Julian didn't even look at her. His gaze stayed on me. Then he slowly turned and scanned the room. Who's been giving my wife a hard time? The word wife hit the office like a bomb. Tessa's smile cracked and fell. Derek let out a weird choking sound. Maya fumbled with her phone, suddenly remembering she'd dropped it. Colin stumbled out of his office, tugging at his tie, trying to play it cool. But I could see the panic all over him. Your wife, Tessa repeated, blinking like she couldn't compute the sentence. She stared at my cardigan like it didn't make sense anymore. Yes, Julian said, his tone like frozen steel. Elena West. My wife. And from what I've heard, she's been treated like absolute garbage here. So, who wants to explain that? No one spoke. You could have heard a pin drop. I stood next to him then. I didn't say a word. Didn't need to. For the first time, they were really looking at me, seeing me. But I didn't smirk. Didn't gloat. I just stood tall, calm, grounded. My dignity untouched. Colin shuffled forward, sweat collecting at his hairline. Mr. West, sir, I am sure there's been some sort of misunderstanding. Elena's a valued part of the team. Julian cut him off, sharp and clean. Valued, he repeated, deadpan. You think mocking her, sidelining her and dumping meaningless work on her is what value looks like? Tessa tried to save herself, scrambling. We didn't know, she stammered. She never said anything. Julian turned, gaze locked. Does she have to? She's here to work, not flaunt the fact that she's married to me, Julian snapped. But you judged her anyway. Just because she doesn't strut around in designer labels, you assumed she was nothing. That's on you. Derek opened his mouth like he had something to say, then thought better of it and clamped it shut. Maya stared at her shoes like they were suddenly fascinating, her influencer fantasies collapsing in real time. Colin muttered something that sounded like an apology, but it didn't land. Too late. Too empty. Julian turned to me, his eyes gentle despite the steel in his voice. You want to stay here, or are we done? I looked him dead in the eye. My voice didn't shake. I'm done. Good, he said simply. Then he faced the room again, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. Here's what's happening. Tessa Vaughn. Derek Sloan. Maya Tran. Colin Reddick, you're fired. Effective immediately. You could hear a pin drop. Security's already on their way up. And don't even think about applying anywhere else in this city. My name carries weight, and I'll personally make sure every HR department knows exactly why you're out of a job. Tessa gasped and clutched the edge of her desk like it was going to save her. You can't do that. I own the board that owns this company, Julian said, calm and final. I can do whatever the hell I want. Colin tried one last desperate angle. Sir, I've been here 7 years. And you stood by while this happened? Julian snapped. That makes you complicit. You're done. Tessa's face twisted into something feral. She stormed over to my desk and slammed her palms down so hard my coffee mug rattled. You think you're better than us now? She hissed. Hiding behind your rich husband like some coward? We always knew you were a fake. Showing up in those dumpy outfits, acting like you were grinding while we carried the real weight around here. Her voice climbed higher, shrill and hateful. She was shaking with rage now. I bet you laughed at us behind our backs every time we called out your pathetic little life. Then Derek jumped in, his face wild with panic. She's a snake. Probably slept her way into that marriage. The room froze. The words just hung there, sharp and poisonous. I didn't move. I didn't cry. I just stood still, tall and composed. And somehow the contrast, their screaming and venom against my silence, only made me seem stronger. Clearer. But those lies? They still hurt. Deep. Then Julian stepped in front of me. Calm. Unshakable. Like a wall no one could get past. He lifted a hand and the room fell dead silent. Enough, he said. You don't get to rewrite the story now just because you're scared. He looked around, eyes blazing. My wife never owed you anything. She didn't have to prove herself to you. She's smart, capable, kind, and worth more than every single one of you combined. You mocked her because you thought she was weak. But look at her now, still standing. While you fall apart. Then he turned to me again. His voice softened. You don't have to say a thing, love. They're done. I met his eyes and gave a quiet nod, steady, proud, unshaken. Security came in like shadows. No hesitation. They dragged the 4 of them out one by one, still yelling, still sputtering. Julian's words echoed as they were shoved toward the elevator. You'll never work again. Not here. Not anywhere. That's the price of trying to tear her down. The elevator dinged again, and 2 security guards stepped out, faces unreadable. Tessa started crying immediately, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Derek muttered a curse, low and bitter. Maya scrambled to gather her things, shoving them into a designer tote like it mattered. Colin didn't move at all, he just stood there, hollow-eyed and finished. The rest of the office didn't say a word. They just watched as the 4 of them were walked out in silence, their careers left behind in a pile of wreckage. Julian reached for my hand then, his touch surprisingly gentle, considering the storm he just brought down on this place. Let's go home, he said softly. I nodded, slipped my tote bag over my shoulder, and walked with him to the elevator. I glanced back once, not at the ones who'd tormented me but at the others. The ones who'd stayed silent. who'd seen everything and said nothing. I didn't look at them with hate. Just calm. A quiet strength in my eyes that I knew would linger long after the elevator doors closed. For weeks after that, the office buzzed with whispers. Stories spread like wildfire about the plain woman in flats who turned out to be married to Julian West, the billionaire who built West Enterprises from scratch and turned it into an empire. Tessa tried to save face with a tearful post on LinkedIn. Nobody bought it. Derek bounced from one dead-end job to another, the confidence gone from his voice and his walk. Maya vanished off social media. Her followers dropped her like a scandal she couldn't spin. And Colin? He disappeared altogether. Like he'd been erased from the industry. As for me, I never stepped foot in Pinnacle again. I didn't have to. Instead, I started freelancing, helping small businesses grow with the same skills they used to mock. Quietly, steadily, on my own terms. And Julian? He stood by me every step of the way, proud, not of who I was married to him, but of who I'd always been. One Saturday evening, we sat together on the balcony of our penthouse, the Seattle skyline glowing in the distance. I leaned against him, my old cardigan traded in for a cozy sweater that still felt like me. You didn't have to destroy them, I said softly, watching the lights flicker below. They destroyed themselves, he replied, pressing a kiss to my forehead. I just made sure they noticed. I smiled, letting the warmth of his words settle in my chest. I'd been mocked, dismissed, humiliated, but I never lost who I was. I didn't rise because of Julian's money. I rose because I stayed true to myself. And that was enough. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs a reminder of their worth, and drop a comment below. What would you have done in Elena's shoes? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more real, powerful stories where justice wins and heart leads the way. Thanks for listening.